Okay, today we're talking about the stratagem called fooling the emperor to cross the sea. And the example of the strategy that we're examining is one that was used by the Bayer pharmaceutical company, and they used it in around mid-80s. And they basically had, the story is that they had a medicine called Factor VIII. It was an injectable medicine for hemophiliacs, mostly children, and to make it they used pools of blood plasma with over 10,000 donors in each pool. And at the time, they had no AIDS screening process for the drugs they were making. So basically with 10,000 people per pool, there's a high probability that someone with AIDS is going to be in the sample. So even one person can contaminate the whole pool. And that's what happened. And basically, they sold it in North America, and people started to die from AIDS that was in the contaminated drug called Factor VIII. And so the government pulled it off the market in America, and they said, okay, we can't make any money here in America, so why don't we fool the emperor and cross the sea, basically. So what they did is, by keeping the news of the contaminated drug secret from the rest of the world, which was easier back in the 80s when they didn't have internet, it allowed them to dump this drug on places like Spain, France, and Japan. And they didn't have to fool the emperor of their own country, so to speak, because the government, FDA, actually helped them to conceal the issue and allowed them to dump the drug overseas. And in the documentation supporting this, one of the FDA members, executives, Dr. Harry Meyer, asked that the issue be quietly solved without alerting Congress, the medical community, and the public. So it just gives you an idea the kind of attitude that was used in terms of safety at that time. And the government actually helped Bayer to conceal the issue. So what happened? By keeping the news of the AIDS-infected drug contained, overseas markets were kept in the dark and lulled into complacency. Bayer continued to sell the drug, and by the time victims realized the dangers posed by Bayer's actions, it was too late. Thousands of people died, and the Bayer company made their profit, which was all they cared about. And it's interesting to note that in France, importers who allowed the drug into their country were actually prosecuted and went to jail. And yet in the country that the drug was being exported from, in America, the people who allowed it to happen had no consequences whatsoever, and they haven't even been criminally investigated since it came out in the late 90s, because the issue was successfully contained for almost 20 years. And in the late 90s it came out, and there was a news report about this incident, but still no justice actions. So basically, they fooled the emperor and crossed the sea by keeping the news of the drug to themselves and selling it overseas. And they got their profit. So I hope they're happy. Thank you.